Alright guys, hello you to all lovely people out there who are interested in building submarines for themselves. This is going to be a little tutorial that Dodge them all requested me to do, so we'll see how this will go. Either way, our idea is to go ahead and build a simple submarine according to the Generation 3 doctrine of deep sea vessels. So let's go ahead and get the vehicle design and we'll see how it goes. And yes, I must confess, right now I have no idea how video editing even works and I cannot trust myself with it. So, this is going to be in one big piece, so there's some dedication going to be needed for you guys to be able to enjoy this in any way. But right now there really are pretty much no submarine tutorials out there, so I'm going to just go ahead and fill that void, even if that's the stuff I'm going to be filling it with is not going to be all that great. So either way, let's get to it. What we want to do is first I'm just cutting away some of this wood, because we don't want to make a submarine out of wood, even though that is possible, and I have built several submarines out of wood. Which actually, this is very unorganized, I know. Don't judge me, but this is going to be a rather long video, I think. So I guess I should just show you things I've built in the past and kind of see how these things are going. So first of all, let's see, what do I want to start with? Let's go ahead and see. This is my first viable submarine. Here you go. So this is the first viable one. It's not, it's not exactly designed to be that great. I mean, for example, these hydrofoil wings are there for the looks mainly. They do not work in any real way. They are not being controlled by anything, which is a real shame because these things are very effective when used properly. However, this submarine itself is working fairly nice. It's not fantastic. We can spawn it on an enemy and see how it does. Let's just go for a sea vibe because that's basically a non-threat. And there we go. The little beautiful torpedoes are fired in a very rapid succession. I kind of like them firing barrage of that thing. And they will try to home in on the target with very little success because, well, no wings, I guess. God damn it me. Why did I build such rubbish torpedoes? But as you can see, it really is having some trouble with balance, and this is what you're likely to experience with your first few submarines. They're really going to be so very sub-functional, you know. Yeah, they're not only going to be submarital, but sub-functional. But, you know, you can hopefully get some results under some certain circumstances, but really, no. They're gonna be rubbish, okay? So be expecting that, because otherwise you're gonna get disappointed, and that's terrible. So let's go ahead and destroy all vehicles and move into. But this is actually, I said this was my first viable submarine. It is viable under very specific conditions. I think it can beat the story mode level 2 of the Deepwater Guard, which is my definition of viable. So there you go. Then we can, I guess we could move a little bit further. This is my first wooden submarine, the Striker Class 1. This is, I can't even remember what it was called. It was called something very cute. I can't remember anymore. It's been a while. As you can see, it's a very simple wooden submarine, which basically uses... What does it really use? Oh yeah, it has a little hydrofoil that this one actually is working. This hydrofoil array that it uses to control its magnificent depth, which it kind of is doing, sort of. I am not sure if these things can actually desurface afterwards. At least I think they can. Let me see. I don't know. Let's go ahead and see if this guy can be the sea wiper. And it's the torpedoes launched. It has only one because, well, it is an incredibly cheap ship considering it is a submarine. And I think this guy is going to connect, which is fantastic, because it's going to show that the submarines you will build in the future will get a lot better, because this thing is far cheaper than the previous one. As you can see, it's far more viable, taking out the Sea Viper with no problem. However, it costs fairly much for what it is. It's, as you can see, it is, you know, there is a fair bit of cost involved, 44,000 RP. But let me show you some bigger submarines, shall we? Let's go ahead and get the Generation 2. Basically, Gen 1 was a very simple submarine system, but Gen 2, let me see, in Gen 2 Aspirant, the Cortex, if I recall correctly, yes, it is the Cortex is the code name. As you can see, it is a very different kind of submarine, and this guy has a very, well, not very, but sort of intelligent AI that's run by a Lua block, which is something we are going to be using today, most likely. Nothing too fancy, but some simple rules that are kind of a pain in the ass to set up in the automated control box. But as you can see, this guy is much smoother with the way it moves, and we can probably spawn it a Sea Viper and see that thing being annihilated. It uses this interesting, that I nowadays quite like, a fist tactic of, you know, just pushing out this massive array of torpedoes that will all connect at the same point. It looks kind of good, and afterwards it will start to fire them in rapid succession instead of these big, large arrays, because, well, reloading takes time, and I run out of ammunition. That's the reason why it goes into this, you know, other mode, which is fairly effective because these guys can push through the initial defenses, which is their purpose. I think I will show you one or two more, and then we will move on to making our very own, because these are the Generation 3 submarines, which is basically very much deep sea vessel to their name. The idea is that these guys will reside very deep within the water. They are usually fairly smooth with their movements, however they do tend to be quite slow. Right now there is only the Piranha class, which is a very cheap sub, as you can see, only under 20,000 RP. It costs a fair bit of metal. It's the first metal striker, because the P.E.K.K.A. and whatever the first strike was called were both made of wood, but this guy is actually made of metal, and this is probably the closest match to what we're going to build today. It only moves 3 meters per second, but it can beat the Plunderer, and this is true. It can beat the Plunderer, and it is on under 20,000 RP. Is that not wonderful? Let's go ahead and show it. Let me see, what should I spawn? I'm pretty confident in this vessel, so let's go ahead and get a Vanguard. It's a more serious ship. The idea is that these guys will reside so deep that any enemy fire will be practically ineffective, unless it's, of course, aerial, in which case you are screwed. And I am serious. If you try to beat a hoplite with one of these subs, you have no hope. You seriously do not have any hope. Those guys do not make low passes, which would make it possible to hit them, with that firing arc or anything along those lines. It looks like we are too far away. I'm not going to bother. But either way, that's a very effective sub for the price. This is my newest submarine, the Shark, which is a aspirant class. Basically, aspirant is the experimental class, while the Striker is the economy class, and the Atlas is the elite class, which is, however, most Atlases have ended up being cancelled at some point, because, well, those projects do tend to suffer from a bit of feature creep. However, as you can see, this guy is kind of having some trouble. Kind of, yeah. These guys are not that great at deep surfacing. However, once they are underwater, they have proven to be pretty decent. The idea of this guy was to make a fairly cheap submarine. I mean, it's not very cheap, but it's the cheapest aspirant to the date, and it is very, very effective. But much quicker than the Piranha. Let me go ahead and spawn it underwater to make it a little bit nicer. It will desurface after a while, but it will take a good while, so you don't want to be spawning those things above water. So let's go ahead and get a sea radar to show that thing off. As you can see, it fires off 3 separate torpedoes, and it goes all the way down to about 10 meters, after which it should start to do its best to not sink any deeper, which you can see right here. It's moving up. And by the way, I'm using Lua so I can get them to think about altitude or depth in relation to the bottom instead of in relation to the top, which is much more useful in pretty much all circumstances. However, as you can see, these torpedoes are making excellent contact. Well, that's a little bit of a problem with the current firing delay. I probably should work on that. Either way, it's pretty good. As you can see, the Sea Adder can be taken out no problem, and this guy can indeed take on many piranhas, so it's an excellent anti-submarine vessel. But now, let's build our own. Let's not make it too complicated. Something, fairly beginner class, which can, is easy to recreate, effective, yet cheap. So let's go ahead and get to it. I will start off by building a vehicle. Let me see, where are those vehicles? I've never been very successful at starting vehicles. I never realize where they're going. Let's just restart designing. That's easier. Far easier. There we go. And I'll jump down here and I'll go ahead and take this building. So I am going to make this thing out of metal, because it's a little bit more fiddly to do it with wood, and it's very bad at desurfacing, which is the issue with all wooden submarines. Every single one of them. There is not a single one I've ever seen that's very good at that kind of thing. Usually they can do it, but it's really, it almost requires AI errors for them to actually achieve it, which is kind of ridiculous. And yeah, I don't want you to expose you to any more of that after seeing the aspirant trying to get underwater with very little success. So let's go ahead and okay, let me see. Just coloring this thing nice and white because we are not cowards that are hiding underwater. We will do this triumphantly, and well, we are not trying to sneak. We are just getting cover from the water layers, because every single meter of water above you is going to give you extra armor, and that's the main theory why submarines are awesome. I'll start off by, building a fairly large platform. I think about that much should be pretty good. After which I am going to we'll make a striker class vehicle out of this thing, because those things are generally the most simple ones. Usually out of necessity, but in this case out of simplifying things for you to be easier to understand. Remember, when you're building submarines, it's kind of like building planes, which I've built a couple of. It's all about how compact you are. However, unlike planes, your weight does not matter. In the end, you can just, it's so easy to get more buoyancy, but it's way harder to get more thrust up in the air. So you don't really have to worry about weight, which is why I'm using the heavy metal blocks instead of the light alloy. So let's go ahead and get ourselves a nice little green torpedo tube. Let me think. I am going to build a 5-long torpedo. This is so as to give us a nice torpedo that can fire at long ranges, be agile, and still cause immense damage. Because we're only going to have one of these things shooting at the time. We want to make them we want to make them count. Thank you, English, for working for goddamn once. And yes, I'm still oh yeah, a quick disclaimer, I'm not too experienced in this game. 50 hours played, but that's about it. Most times spent designing submarines, so yeah. Let's go ahead and get ourselves a missile controller. And by the way, when you are dealing with missiles, especially in lower class vehicles, identify friend or foe is you need it, okay? You just need it. Don't think, do you need it? No, yes you do. You do need it in every single case, because otherwise you're going to have torpedoes hitting each other. It's terrible, especially with these cheaper vehicles you want to use in swarms. You need identify friend or foe, or otherwise terrible things will be happening to you. Let me see, can I make this thing go in? Because these are kind of useful. They are not absolutely required, and yeah, it's not working. That's fine. That's fine. Now let's go ahead and get ourselves a local weapon control. I'm building usually AI first, because it's one of the more space-taking parts about building these things, and at the end of the day we try to make this as small as possible. As you can see, this is working. Failsafe is not needed when you're dealing with missiles. Then I'll just attach AI mainframe straight to it, so we don't need any of that wireless nonsense. Looks like we do need to extend this out just a little tiny scooch, which is absolutely fine for us. Get ourselves some hard slots. Let me think, how many do we need? I think we're going to need all 3. Let's see if I was right. Right now I'm using naval AI, even though there is an argument to be made to use actually aerial AI, which is something I most certainly will be interested in Generation 4 Doctrine, which is all about ballast tanks. There might be another video on that if you do so request. However, for now let's continue with the tutorial. We want target prioritization for obvious reasons. We want, let me see, we want propulsion balancing. This is going to help us, not flip over so much. This is a thing I actually found in Generation 3 before that I was not using this card, and well, the behavior was rather erratic, so it's a very good card. Use it. Actually, looks like this is all the cards. Yeah, I'm still kind of figuring this thing out. Let's go. Oh yeah, submarines only use 2 card slots, and then we will have the final slot for a card actually occupied by a lure box. We will be using this thing to do some very simple scripting. Nothing too fancy, nothing too scary. It's gonna be fine. Now let's go ahead and start building the shell for the submarine. In the end, submarines are fairly small, and yes, you do use the symmetry mode whenever you are able to. It saves you some time. It saves you some grey hairs. It's it's good. It's really good. Use it. Use it to your advantage. And by the way, when you're building submarine, any armor blocks is actually very, very useful, because armor is multiplied underwater, because the armor piercing values of these shells will pretty much go to shit as they try to travel through 300 meters of water, at which point they will just bounce off your armor, which is beautiful to see. However, what are we missing? Oh no, we are not connected, are we? Okay, that's fine. It's fine, let's go ahead and connect ourselves. It's a little finicky every single time. I've never had this go completely smoothly. Let's see. No. Let me see. What's going on with you? Why aren't you working? There we go. That's gonna do the trick very well indeed. So let's go ahead and design our torpedo at this point. We're on the torpedo propeller, of course. And only one fuel tank is ever needed. Do not put ever more. Unless you have more than 5 torpedo propellers, you do not need fuel tank. These torpedoes will time out before they run out of fuel. Remember that, never more than 1 fuel tank. They are not worth it. 1 turns are something I'm still kind of experimenting with. I think I'll keep it because I have plenty of space and, you know, nothing too serious to do. I usually prefer to have these guys use explosive warheads, because in the end, these guys are often facing some hard armor, and I just, you know, fragmentation warheads I only use in my air-to-air missiles. However, that's just my personal preference. If you like them, go ahead and use them. Nothing is there to fight against that. Torpedo sonar, I much prefer this to IR Seeker, even though, yes, there is an argument made to use it, but torpedo sonar has 60-degree field of view, while the IR Seeker only has, oh, really? That's 220. That's interesting. Either way, I'm going to use the torpedo sonar. I'm not going to, you know, fiddle with that. That's a very interesting piece of detail I did not actually know. So either way, let's go ahead and get this thing going. I know it's kind of bad when you are learning new things in a tutorial, but this is my first time doing it. This and it's not nothing too professional, right? Alright, I think this is going to do it. It should be a fairly effective missile in all accounts. And now we are actually going to be doing the final stage of developing this little submarine of ours. Let's go ahead and color it in, because I mean coloring things in is always wonderful to signify this is a Striker class vehicle. Because my aspirants are blue for science, my atlases are red for legacy, and my strikers are green for economy. They are green for cash, you know, that's the idea. They're very cheap, but, you know, early game vehicles for taking out early game targets. Okay, that should do the trick. I'm going to actually, yes, we should now it's going to be the very last moment we are going to be dealing with aerodynamics. Let's go ahead and add some more of these blocks to really help us. And let's see, where is the center of mass, and is it too high, is it too low, where is this? Because it's kind of important to actually be dealing with it. When you have the propulsion balancing module, you need to have stuff in every side of it. Is it really here? Oh my goodness me, that's a very high center of mass. Let's go ahead and add some, bulk this thing up over here. Let's go ahead and add some lead blocks. This is also, you know, these guys are kind of expensive when you think about it. I'm not thinking too much about the economy, even though this is technically a striker. It is a tutorial striker, not a proper striker. I spent days optimizing and trying to get the cost as low as possible while still maintaining a proper effectiveness. And yes, resources are going to be something I will worry about in just a bit. However, for now we're going to be dealing with propulsion. And when you're dealing with, you do not use large propellers when you're dealing with this guy, because you want propulsion in all 4 sides. I repeat, all 4 sides. Because at the end of the day, this is basically the most effective configuration. You can have these 4 as well. This one is, I mean, you can have it. It's most likely going to never be used, so it's kind of useless. Because the propulsion balancing is trying to, you know, set the percentages to these propellers so that the propulsion is actually at the center of mass, which is why we want the center of mass to be about here, and then it can kind of fiddle it with the exact numbers with these propellers. And if you have only one large propeller, of course, it's not going to be able to do that, which is terrible. Now, of course, we want, I mean, let me think, do we need hydrofoils? I think yes, we do. Let's go ahead and add a hydrofoil array right here. It's going to help us do many things, you will see. And I'm not going to do roll correct this time, so let's just go ahead and copy the clipboard and spread to all touching components. I'm just setting the complex control input so I can actually control the complex. I can control them with from the Lua box with complex controller stimulus, which is what I use right now. I know there are ways to array all the hydrofoils in the vehicle, and that might be easier, but right now I'm just, you know, this is fine. This is fine for me. Rudder, it's one of those things that, you know, you don't really need, but they can help it steer just a little bit, so why not, you know? Then something, you know, some people do not like to use this. I myself have found them quite useful. And it's jet stabilizers. Do not have too many of them because these things are very expensive. Seriously, you don't want too many of them. And just a few over here should do the trick. There we go. It's it might be a little bit of an overkill, but in the end it's going to help us greatly to keep this thing in a sensible position, even under crisis. Then what you will want to do is actually get a hot air balloon deployer. Once again, one of those things that kinda don't make too much sense, but they will once you learn when we're going to activate this thing. And by the way, I'm going to set up T and G as the complex controller stimuli. Let me think, have I forgotten anything important, or other than the resources, of course, which I am going to deal with right now. First of all, we will need a good bit of ammo. Usually, it's going to take a pretty serious bit of ammo to get these things off the ground. However, you know, this should do the trick. Oh, and engines. Yes, this is a classic example of forgetting something very essential, very late. It's bad. Anyway, let's go ahead and... But this is something you will be facing off. I know, this is getting so unprofessional, but I mean, it's my first video on this channel. What the hell? Let's get ourselves a nice little engine block. And I think I want this engine to be white because I made the platform green to keep some contrast for the YouTubes that have terrible compression. And as you might hear, I might be getting a little bit sick, but nothing too serious, I would hope. And here I'm just doping out, trying to find things, as per usual. Then let's get ourselves a couple of cylinders. Keep things nice. Let me think. I don't care too much about the cost right now, so do I actually? I think I want to do a 3-cylinder tactic. And then go ahead and get carburetors. I guess that'll work for now. To every side to get myself... Okay, that's plenty of power. However, yeah, that's very much plenty of power. Let's go ahead and cut down the size of the engine now. Because at the end of the day, you want to make these things as small as possible while still maintaining a reasonable amount of power. There you go. This is how you can retrofit an engine into a submarine. Something new for you to learn every day. There we go. Let's go ahead and add these things. And now, time for a new propeller array. We have far more power than we need. Far more power. The Piranha has 5 power engine. Just think about that, 5 power, and it's still able to, you know, maintain itself. So yeah, this is an overkill when it comes to power. However, we like overkill things, right? We do love them. So let's go ahead and get some. I might, let me see. Yeah, it's not gonna fit. Okay, let's just go ahead and get myself a good bunch of these things to be used. Yeah, I mean, I guess I can just make it to be a whole array for perfect propulsion balancing. Well, almost perfect, I would hope. And a new set of these guys to cover the very backs. And there we go. I think this is going to pretty much do it. Let's go ahead and now worry about the dynamics, because it's going to, you know, allow us to get tiny bit of more speed, which is always lovely, and it's going to make us, you know, look better. And this looped armor does have a higher chance of reflecting, as far as I know, so that's, you know, added protection, I suppose. Always nice. This guy also will push the craft down, which is, I mean, it can be what you want. It can be exactly the opposite of what you want, but right now that's what's gonna happen, whether we want it or not, so just be prepared for that. Let's go ahead and get some more. And this guy's actually kind of unnecessary right now. These guys don't look particularly good. There we go. This should pretty much do it for aerodynamics. To get, you know, a little bit of a nicer look as well. Always good. Okay, oh yeah, you have to get these things going. I forgot about them. Entirely, I just put them, you know, procrastinated them because I thought I'd be getting myself these one slopes later down the line. So let's get that thing going. Alright, fantastic. So this should pretty much be all we need for the hardware. I would hope so. Oh yeah, a fuel tank I guess could be nice, but you know, who cares about that kind of stuff, right? Our fuel storage tank, there we go. Let's go ahead and just sink these things down here. Can get us one of some of this and get the, you know, kind of redesign. 2 might run out quite quickly. Yeah, it will run out fairly quickly. I guess I could put a ammo. Now I can't put a processor. So we must make more room for ammo, for fuel, I guess, which is fine by me, I guess. I mean, yeah, I've got nothing against ammo. I love ammo. There we go. Should do the trick fairly. Oh wait, that's bad. That's really bad. That's better. That's much better. There we go. Now I have plenty of fuel. We aren't running out too quickly, I would hope. Let's save the vehicle at this point. There we go, just following my own naming practices there. Nothing too much, nothing to worry about. And here we go. I mean, everything should be fine. Yeah, I see nothing, you know, no glaring issues anyway. So let's go ahead and get the glove box, because that's really, and actually, there are a couple of things we have to do with the AI, because these guys, you know, of course you aren't going to be, you know, controlling this. I hope you have realized it, you all have realized it by this. So let's go ahead and depth requirement. I do not want you to ever go to under 120 meters, because you are in deep trouble then. Disable reverse, because reverse with submarines usually leads to some issues. And just, you know, broadside as little as possible, and when you are broadsiding, 0 degrees. The problem with broadsiding is that it can still count as 0 degrees, even though it's exact opposite, as far as I know, which is why I do not want it to broadside ever. It's much better off when it's not directly facing opposite to the enemy. And now let's get to the white box, because that's where the real stuff is gonna go down. So we're just going to take this message away and create a new function for ourselves. There we go. Then on update we'll call that depth correct every single frame. It's just me organizing things, because when you have more correction parameters like roll correct or pitch correct or things like that for more advanced ships, you need to get them in separate functions, and it's important, you know. Now what do we want to do in depth correct? First of all, we will have pos be equal to our position. There we go. Altitude is going to be, well, we'll soon see. There we go, we've overloaded the I get terrain altitude for position with the vector 3 we get from I get construct position. So, and we are taking that away from position.y, and this gives us the distance between our current position and the position of the terrain, which is exactly what we want, right? And let me think. Yes, indeed, that's exactly what we want. And if you are fancy, you could also have it measure the size of your vessel, and then take that away as well to get, even finer details. But this vessel is so small, it's not going to matter. It's going to be 1 or 2 meters, which we can just correct by ourselves. It's fine. Now we have those 2 values we can work with, and let's see. Okay, our first rule will be, if we are too high up, we will go down. Fairly simple, right? If we are more than 40 meters away from the ground, then we want to go down, which happens by requesting complex controller stimulus of the let me think, it is the 10 nature. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what we want. Then if altitude is, well, if we are too close to the ground, we of course want to go up. And because the way I map the hydrofoils, I will be doing that. Now we have the basic rule for, depth. However, we do want some special rules, which is basically the emergency, which is if we are less than, let me see, 10 meters, let's say 10 meters away from the ground, you want to actually deploy the balloon deployers, which happens by the number 1, because I mapped it to T. As you can know, it's T is 1, G is 2, Y is 3, H is 4, and that's how it goes all the way to L, which is 10. And that's how you do those things, and I think it then continues in some similar fashion in the arrow keys, but I never deal with them, so I don't really know. But we do not want to float all the way to the ground, all the way to the surface, so we are going to actually do a reverse action that, which is if we are above 40, let's say that. Actually, yeah, that's a very good idea. If we are above 40, then we'll also be giving out the complex controller stimulus to take down those balloons, which happens with number 2. There we go. This should pretty much do everything we need, and let's go ahead and just, because of propulsion balancing, we cannot request any decided water speeds, as far as I know, so that's kind of useless. Let's see if this is goes. Okay, there's a error somewhere. Let's see. What did I do wrong? Cannot find correct. Okay, yes. Let me see. Oh yeah, it's not get. It's request. There we go. And it's running perfectly. Fantastic. So there we go. Our little Lua script is going, which is fantastic. And if you are, I leave any further Lua talk to a possible further Lua tutorial if you do request that, but it's pretty easy to get into, so I'm not sure if that's needed. But now this ship should in theory be very much functional. We can see if it is. It might not be. Let's see. I have very, very, very not high hopes for it, but let's see. Okay, it's submerging excellently, however that does not mean it's going to work very well. So we will see if what's going to happen at the end of the day, Is it going down even? Yeah, it is. Okay. This seems pretty decent. And it should, with the extra rules to avoid it from colliding with the ground, it should be pretty good. As you can see, it's actually fairly fast. It's nice little. Let's see how much does it cost. It's fairly cheap. That's good. It's actually a very good mid-range vehicle. I might end up using it in my campaign, because I could really use something a little bit quicker than the Piranha, but a fair bit, cheaper than the Shark. I don't know what I'd call them. Maybe I'll just keep calling it the tutorial. Let's see how this does against the Sea Viper, for example. Why, you little bugger, over there. Let's see this thing turning there, I would hope. Okay, as you can see, our torpedo, with its immense amount of fins, can turn very, very quickly. Oh, I forgot something critical. This is a very good example of forgetting something very critical very late on. We did not put the ballast tanks in our torpedoes. These are essential for anything happening at all. These are just fantastic. You need them, especially if you're going to fight against other submarines, but even if you are not, because this allows for underwater shots. And that's what we want. So let's go ahead and, now that I've saved it, let's go ahead and get ourselves another Sea Viper and see how these new underwater missile torpedoes are going to do. As you can see, those things are now moving underwater. Okay, this is all torpedoes, so don't Just don't look at it. Don't look at it. Here's a proper torpedo. As you can see, these guys are going to stay underwater, and they will, you know, pathfind in 3 dimensions underwater instead of just staying on the on top of the water, which is an excellent upgrade. They're coming in. I would hope that I've never used a one-turn with torpedoes before, so I'm a little bit worried. I would hope they will work fantastic, but I cannot guarantee that, so just let me see how it's gonna do. And it is going to absolutely fail. Fantastic, and the one turn is going to prevent it from... I don't think I like the one turn, I've got to be honest. I do not like it. Okay, let's go ahead and get rid of it. And I know this is not something you should be doing in a tutorial. And indeed, if you want to stop now, you can. It's absolutely fine. You've learned what you needed. Let's go ahead and get rather some more explosives. Because, well, they are explosives, right? But if you want to get, you know, more into the whole submarine building things, yeah, just go ahead and continue following me along. And let's go ahead and get that thing. Yes, there we go. And save vehicle. And there we go. Let's see how this thing now does with its superior. Because as you can see, it's already shot so many torpedoes and none of them have hit. Which is just ridiculous. And this is what happens when you have one turn, because torpedoes often do not hit on the first pass, but instead they will use their superior maneuverability to get a second pass going. Well, that's an example of a hit torpedo, so that's good. And yeah, let's see. Will this guys be doing anything good? I would most certainly hope so, because otherwise this is a little bit of a fail. However, these are very small ships, so you know, as you can, and there we go. This is a non-one turn, so it's going to come back and have a second pass. And there we go. A second passer came in and absolutely obliterated. If I could pronounce that word, it would sound cooler. However, it decimated the enemy. That's something I can pronounce. I can indeed pronounce. So that's good. Let's go ahead and get a more serious enemy. Battle gun is a very strong enemy against submarines, because those AA guns actually can face downwards and cause terrible things happening. It's bad. So let's go ahead and get rather a, I don't know, a Vanguard. Could be nice. There we go, a Vanguard. These things are, you know, kind of serious. Nothing, they aren't major battleships, but they are, you know, they are considerable. And as you can see, it comes in and takes out half the keel. It's glorious, isn't it? Glorious indeed. The Epsilon fleet is doing its job excellently, as per usual. Well, and now that I say that, of course it's not going to hit, but it's coming in for a second pass. The same is happening for them. It's kind of forming this heart shape, which I really, you know, think is kind of cruel, but really fun. And there it comes in and takes out the other side of the keel, and this guy's finished being on its second pass and it's coming in along with this guy, hitting it from multiple sides, just destroying the thing that was keeping this thing stable. And now it's flipping over and it's over for this thing, let's face it. And as you can see, our submarine is doing excellently when it comes to the maneuvering. It is being stable, it's moving around pretty quickly. It's a very good sub. I want to actually optimize this thing and bring it into my navy. However, it is, yeah, it's lacking one thing, and I'm going to add it. Yeah, as you can see, it would take this thing down. These guys, I would like that. Submarines are not usually very quick at taking things down, because they don't do that much damage, and that's an issue. But let's go ahead and add a repair drone, because often submarines take very, very little damage, but it can be fatal, which is why we want to repair that damage before it causes any more issues. This is a very small addition, very good though. So there we go. I think this is done for the tutorial though. Let's go ahead and battle this out with some of my previous designs. Let's see if this or Piranha wins. Let's go ahead and do that. That's fine, right? And let's make them the Water Guard and a Piranha. Let me see date. Thank you very much. A Piranha D-Class. It's the latest, you know, cost optimization. It's 3,000 cheaper and fires much faster than the original Piranha. And let's see, now these torpedoes are being fired and they are doing their little maneuvers. Let's see how these guys are going to do. Okay, let's see, that thing missed, but this is going to have a second pass. It's always exciting to see. Oh, that is a hit. And it took out most of the propulsion. It is now. Yeah, I think it's over for the Piranha, isn't it? Yes, it is. That is one dead Piranha, which shows the superiority of this new battle class, doesn't it? Let's go ahead and load in some more submarines. Let's just, yeah, it's dead. Very dead indeed. There we go. Let's load in a, let me think, let's go back a little bit. Let's go ahead and get a P.E.K.K.A. These are the wooden submarines. They're kind of cool. They are much bigger and don't cost too much because they're wood. Let's keep it real, you know. Wood is cheap, wood is good, and it is managing to hit. But this wood is also, not only is it cheap and good, it's also very susceptible to all kinds of damage. However, it is crushing our poor little tutorial submarine. And yes, there is a degree of whoever gets the first shot, but these guys are much more maneuverable, these torpedoes, and they are able to just contact way more certainty, and it has the high ground. But as you can see, it's slightly more expensive, right? Yeah, it is considerably more expensive. So yeah, it is, you know, kind of to be expected. However, this little... Okay, yeah, this thing is... I don't know, it's... Yeah. I don't know where it came from, but damn... Is it? Oh yeah, I think it's rogue. I think it's rogue. Okay, yeah. This thing is done with. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'm very sorry this was kind of incoherent at times, and it was not very professional at any moments, and it took 40 goddamn minutes to get this thing done. But can you believe that? 40 minutes of a submarine tutorial, and we managed to get this little done. I'm sorry. Either way, you know, thanks for everybody who decided to hang on, and we'll see you next time. Maybe, possibly, kind of. See you.